Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Sneha and today I'm sharing with you how I get this look, which is essentially a no makeup look. Now this can be a great look not just for your workplace, for maybe college, or even when you maybe have guests coming over but you don't want to look like you've put too much effort into looking glamorous. This can be a go-to look. It can also be a look for running errands, whatnot. So if you'd like to see how to create this look, please continue watching. So I've already gone ahead and moisturized my face, added lip balm, and I also have my sunscreen on. In case you're curious, I have the La Roche-Posay Antilio 60 as my sunscreen. Now, my idea of a no makeup is just to get a more refined or more finished version of myself, but still look like me. So if that makes sense. So I don't typically wear color, so no reds, no pinks, none of those colors on the cheeks or lips or any of that. We're gonna keep it quite nude or neutral in tone, if that makes sense. Now with my skin, thankfully it's come to a better place than what it's been the last few years. But I just have acne scarring remaining. I don't have any live acne, if that makes sense. So the goal is to even out my skin, because if you can see, my skin is quite a bit lighter than my neck. So I do want to even that out. So I do want to use a foundation just for that reason. But if you're lucky enough to have even skin tone between your face and neck, then by all means skip this step and just do the later steps. So for me, the first step is definitely going to be applying foundation. Secondly, my concern is to cover up some of these scars. I have a few this side, and then this side I just have mostly this guy to cover up, and a bit that runs down to my jawline. So that, and then as far as color correction is concerned, I just want to color correct this darkness that I have at the corners of my mouth. It's a little bit into my smile lines that you can see. Even if I stretch the skin, I still have that. And then just in the inner corner of my eye, if you can see that, I have some darkness. Thankfully, I don't have major dark circles, but I just have a shadow because the lower lid is kind of protruding for me. So that creates like a shadow right here. Because if I look up right there, you can see hopefully that there is no discoloration or darkness. So I'm just going to color correct those areas. That's about it. The foundation of choice for me is the MAC Face and Body, and I'm in the shade C5. Now, there is a learning curve with this foundation. You can't just take some out and apply it like a typical foundation. It needs to be warmed up and worked into the skin to get it to work, if that makes sense. So there's a couple of ways you can use this. First one is to put a few drops on your hands and warm it up in between your palms, and then pat it onto your skin or just massage it into your skin. So I'm going to show you that. And the second method is to use a synthetic brush and buff it into your skin. So I'm going to show you that as well once I layer up the foundation. Now this is a foundation with very light coverage, and also that the finish is very skin-like and very dewy before you set it anyway. So if you have dry skin, I would highly recommend trying out this foundation. It's beautiful if you like the skin-like finish. So what I'm going to do is shake this bottle really well. That's important with this foundation. So just taking a few drops right here in my palm, I guess. So I've taken about so much foundation. It's quite a runny formula. Get your hands dirty. My hands are obviously washed, so you can see that that's what the foundation looks like. So rub it in till now I can feel some resistance. So that's when you know that the formula is now kind of activated. And then just stamp it on your face, or pat it, I guess. As you can see, you can barely see the formula on the skin. It's very light coverage, but quite buildable, but never full coverage. I'm just going to repeat this a couple of times till I get the coverage I desire. So again, taking so much of the foundation. That's good. I'm just going to add a little bit more just on my cheek area. Just going to wash my hands and be right back. So now that I'm back with clean hands, what I'm going to first do is remove any residual foundation on my eyebrows because they tend to look a little bit gray after I've applied it with my fingers. So I'm just going to take some something similar to Bioderma, so just some micellar water, and just run it through your brow. You can see how much product was in the brow, and that looks so much better than this gray brow right here. Next, I just want to buff everything in and take off any excess foundation that may be sitting on top of the skin. So I'm just going to use a synthetic buffing brush. This is the Zoeva 110 face brush, but feel free to use any synthetic dense brush for this step. So this is the second way you can apply this foundation. You just have to really buff it in till you feel that resistance that I was talking with the fingers. You should feel the same with the brush. Just going to buff over my entire face with this brush, and I do prefer this size because I can do this area without getting the foundation back on my brows, if that makes sense. And also I can get in right here. Now as you're working the foundation into your skin like this, you will lose some of the dewiness that you initially see when you apply this foundation. Sorry, the sun is in and out, so it's suddenly gotten darker. So as you can hopefully see the shine between this side where I haven't buffed yet versus this. This is a lot more subtle, the glow. It's not as wet looking as this side. Okay, you can see quite a bit of excess foundation has been picked up by the brush. So next I am moving on to color correction, and that's an important step for me, but again, if you have even skin tone, you can skip this step completely. So what I've done is taken some of the MAC Conceal and Correct palette. It's the medium dark or medium, I believe, and the shade is NW40. So I've just taken a small amount into the lid of my Kevyn Aucoin concealer, and this is just for my personal use. So while the actual palette stays in my kit. Just going to come in a little bit closer so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm just going to take a very small amount of this and apply it to these areas which are looking gray, and then also a little bit right around my eyes where I need some color correction. Now I'm not going in with pure pigment like an orange or red to color correct because honestly I don't need it, firstly. And secondly, I have to then apply a lot more concealer to cover up the corrector, if that makes sense. So that's the reason why I don't like using pure color correctors on myself personally, especially when I'm going for a no makeup look. Just going to apply it where I have darkness, not everywhere, if that makes sense. I'm just going to turn my face this way so you can see what I'm doing. So right there. Is that, and then right here. So as you can see, the tone is slightly peachy, but it's not obvious as orange when I look straight ahead. So just applying it right here. And then blending whatever is remaining right here where I can see my vein peeking through. And then right at that outer corner where it can be a little bit red sometimes. That's literally how much concealer we're going to use. It's a concealer and corrector in one, so if you can see the difference in this eye versus this. Just repeating the same on the other eye now. And I'm going to quickly set it with some powder. I'm going to be using the FW Beauty setting powder in the shade Light for under my eyes. I'm just going to take a very small amount on a Real Technique setting brush. And again, just take off any creases that you may see. Okay, and then quickly pat it with the powder. Okay, like so. Repeating the same on this eye. Next, while I still have the color corrector out here, I'm just going to also color correct this area, and I'm going to use the same shade. So when I keep it against my skin, you can see that it has more orange base to it and slightly darker than my skin tone. So just evaluate your skin. Don't add steps just because other people are doing it. Do it more catered to your skin and your needs. So yeah, less is more. I'm going to set that with some powder, and for that I'm going to use this custom mix where I've mixed Danessa Myricks powder and I think the Ben 9 Neutral Set powder or the RCMA No Color powder. This is what the color is like. Again, just make sure there's no creasing before you set it. As you can see, I do have quite a bit of dark hair and they're quite thick, but I do have some space between my brows, so I do like to fill that up. So just brushing through my brows first. And for this, I'm going to use brow powders. I'm going to use the ABH brow powder in the shade Dark Brown. And I'm actually going to use both the shades. I'm using the first shade, the lightest one, through most of my brow. And then the darker shade, I'm going to focus more at the tail of my brow. And for this, I'm going to use the Wayne Goss brush number 21, which is my favorite for brow powders. So just taking the lighter shade, I'm going to run it through the start of my brow. You can see that although it's such a light shade compared to my brow hair, it is perfect to create that shadow that I need under those brow hairs, I guess. So this is just to add as a base throughout the brow. Okay, so that already looks a lot better than this one. So once I have that basic outline with that lighter shade, I'm going to switch brushes. I'm going to use the Barbara Carranza brush, but you can use any brush that you may have which looks like this. It's a slim brush basically, and it's quite firm, so you can create hair-like strokes. So I'm going to go in with that dark brown shade now, the darkest of the two. Just apply it where you may be missing some hair. So right there. More at the tail of my brow, but I'm going to use another shade in a minute right at that tail. So once I've filled that, I go into my Kat Von D powder. It may seem excessive, but I don't know, I just like it. I'm just going to use a hint of this shade. This is the shade Graphite, and it's the Brow Struck Dimension powder. This is what it looks like. I'm going to apply it just to the arch where you can see that the hair is missing, but the brown is too light of a shade to mimic my hair. So I'm just going to take a little bit of this black and create a couple of strokes there. Then whatever's remaining, I tend to bring it towards the middle, and then lastly to the front of the brow. Repeating the same on this. Okay, then I'm just going to brush through my brow just to make everything softer. And that is brows complete. Next, I want to cover up my acne scarring, and for that I'm going to use the Kevyn Aucoin Sensual Skin Enhancer. This is in the shade SX11. Again, less is more. I don't want to pile on stuff, so I'm very careful with the size of the brush that I'm going to use to apply the concealer. I'm going to use this Hakuhodo brush. It's like an eye blender, small eye blender brush, but I do like it for concealer. It comes to a really nice fine tip, so it's good for pinpoint concealing. So I just take a small amount of the concealer, and that's going to be enough for my entire face. So I usually like to apply it to the back of my hand and then work from there. Okay, moving on to this cheek. Probably going to speed this process up because it's basically just pinpoint concealing, and I've already made videos on this, so I'm going to link it as a card on the screen. They're old videos, but hopefully still useful. Actually, before this step, I'm just going to quickly highlight a little bit. Now this is an optional step. You may or may not want to do, but if I wear something low neck, my face looks a little dark and yellow, so I like to bring back some of that lightness just in the center of my face, nothing fancy. So I'm just going to use this MAC Prep and Prime highlighter pen. This is the shade Light Boost. I'm just applying a couple of strokes like this, and down the center of my nose, right there, and right there. Typical Instagram or YouTube makeup, actually. Just going to do that. And going back to the brush we used for the foundation, just pat it in place. It's a very light coverage formula, if I can say that. It just adds the lightness, it doesn't add much coverage. And that's the reason this product is of choice for this kind of a no makeup look. You can see it just blends right into the skin. Okay, like that. But you can see it just adds a little bit, a hint of brightness, which then ties better with my neck and chest. Also, because it's a yellow in tone, it takes down some of the redness in this area. Again, the step is optional, but it just looks more three-dimensional, the face. Because when you do have bare skin, it's not just one color, you do have light and dark areas. But that's how I'm going to leave my face right now. Sorry, the camera kind of cut off because the memory card was full. So I did go ahead and finish the acne scarring coverage. Once I have that, I'm going to set everything in place with the powder. So I think I'm going to use the FW Beauty just because I can see that my face is slightly yellow compared to my neck. So I'm going to use this and hopefully neutralize some of that yellowness. Going to use my Wayne Gauze brush number 14 for this. So again, the powder application is quite light. It's not that I'm going in with a heavy, dense brush. You know, for example, this Wayne Gauze brush, which is number 2, versus this gives a much lighter, it's more fluffy, that makes sense, versus this, which is quite dense. So just taking a small amount of the powder, just setting the entire face. You can see that immediately when you apply the powder, it does take down quite a bit of that shine. If you have dry skin, you could potentially skip powdering and enjoy that dewy finish. But if I don't, I'm going to look like a grease ball in an hour. Alright, lastly, I'm going to apply some lip color. Now, I've already applied some before the start of the video just because my natural lip coloring is kind of odd. So I'm going to use the MAC lipstick in the shade Whirl and just applying it lightly. I mean, lightly, I guess. I do need coverage because I have like a darker rim on the outside of my lips. And then I can set all this in place with my setting spray. Just going to cover my hair. And then take maybe the all-nighter setting spray by Decay. And then once that's dried, this is my no makeup look. You can see that my skin is even, but at the same time I've kept some of the darkness on my eyelids, not applied mascara, so that kind of keeps it looking quite natural. And although I have lip color on my lips, it doesn't look jarring or quite apparent, which I quite like. I don't have any bronzer, contour, highlighter, nothing. Everything is just quite even and quite glowy and dewy and very skin-like. So this is my take on no makeup look. You know, let me know in the comment section below what you think. For some of you, this might be too many steps. You know, applying foundation and then buffing it with a brush, then going in and doing all the spot concealing and stuff. But this is what I feel is my no makeup look. It can be different for you, and that's totally fine. By the way, I used only like 50% of the concealer that I had initially taken out. So that's how little concealer I do use for my face. So just keep that in mind. Less is more when you're trying to create this kind of a look. And of course, this can be also a base for other makeup. I can apply bronzer on top, I can apply blush, I can apply some mascara for a slightly more finished look compared to this no makeup look. So yeah, you can take it in different ways, I guess. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please don't forget to hit that like button and also consider subscribing. Do let me know in the comment section below what products you use when you have to do a no makeup look. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!
Open eye, feel the waves cut through me.